very unwieldy.
It's difficult to always remember that diamonds are stones, so they're very heavy.
Yes.
Before she died, Queen Elizabeth humiliated Camilla in the most shocking and painful way imaginable. Camilla had one thing she wanted more than anything else: the pearls Diana once wore against her skin. She wanted them so badly and made no secret of it. What the Queen did next stopped her cold. She picked up those exact pearls and placed them around Catherine's neck, right there, right in front of her. But being cut down that way only made Camilla furious. She desperately began demanding more jewels. Then the Queen made her final move. The last thing she did before she died is something Camilla never saw coming, and it broke something inside her that has never healed. The ambush. The second Catherine walked into that chapel, something inside Camilla shattered completely. It was April 2021. The royal family had come to St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle to bury Prince Philip. Every person who had ever followed this family had their eyes nailed to that chapel, grief pressing down on every single face. Then something happened. Catherine walked in. Around her neck sat a 4-strand pearl choker, glowing, flawless. Those were not just pearls, those were Diana's pearls. The exact choker Princess Diana wore in November 1982 at the Hampton Court Palace banquet during the Dutch state visit, the night the whole world fell completely in love with her. And let me tell you something surprising about that pearl. It had been sealed in a vault for nearly 20 years since Diana's because no woman had been seen as worthy enough to wear them again. This was the exact jewel Camilla would give up almost anything to have. And that was exactly the jewel Queen Elizabeth picked for Catherine. She carefully placed those pearls around Catherine's neck at her husband's funeral. Camilla was sitting just a few feet away. She could not make a single sound. The cameras were sweeping across that family every few seconds, and the whole world was watching every breath they took. So she held herself completely still, every muscle in her face locked into position, and those pearls caught the chapel light and glowed while the world sat watching the ghost of Diana come walking back through the door, back into the chair right next to Camilla. And there was absolutely nothing on this earth she could do about it. Body language experts who went back through the footage said what lived on Camilla's face was deeply ugly. Her eyes had gone flat and hard, and when the cameras caught her from certain angles, something was burning just underneath the surface of her expression that looked like rage. Camilla never once dropped her eyes to Catherine's neck. She already knew exactly what was resting there, and that thought alone was killing her. Queen Elizabeth had personally approved every single thing Catherine put on her body that day, and she had chosen Diana's pearls with complete and total awareness that Camilla would be sitting feet away at the most watched royal gathering in years. That was a message delivered without a single word. You see, the Queen had been working toward this moment for years, quietly, one piece at a time. And to understand what she was really doing, you have to go all the way back to the beginning, back to 2005, when Camilla first came through the palace doors as Charles's wife and immediately did something that made the Queen's whole face go still. The moment Camilla married Charles, she had the legal right to be styled Princess of Wales, Diana's title, the title the whole world was still quietly bleeding over. And Camilla's people did something that genuinely disturbed the palace. According to reports, they pushed hard for her to take it, and Camilla herself was heard saying exactly what she thought. "I am the one who is actually here beside him now. I won. That title is more befitting of me than anyone." The Queen's response came fast, and it was absolute. Camilla would be Duchess of Cornwall. Not one thing beyond that. Not a single syllable of Diana's title would ever reach her. It was finished before it even had a chance to start. But Camilla kept going. She was a senior royal now. She needed jewels for state occasions. The royal vault was enormous. It had centuries of diamonds, pearls, emeralds, and rubies lying in velvet-lined drawers waiting to be worn. Surely there was room for her somewhere inside all of that. There was. But the Queen was already drawing lines Camilla could not yet see. Behind closed doors, the Queen's personal dresser, Angela Kelly, the woman who physically controlled access to every piece in that vault, began keeping a record of every single request Camilla made. Every item had to be approved in writing before it touched her body. The palace called it standard protocol, but everyone who actually understood how that building worked knew exactly what it was. It was a leash, and Camilla was on the end of it. Now, something happened that Camilla would have found very awkward. Instead of Diana's collection, she was handed the Queen Mother's leftovers, the grand Boucheron honeycomb tiara, the heavy pearl chokers with their thick diamond clasps. And yes, they were beautiful. Nobody is saying they were not, but they were old. They were finished. They belonged to a woman who was already in the ground. The queen was dressing Camilla in a dead woman's clothes and pointing her toward the past while quietly handing the future to someone else entirely. And Camilla sat there wearing it all with a smile. She had absolutely no idea what was being done to her. Then 2011 arrived. Catherine married William. The world watched her come down that aisle at Westminster Abbey, and it was completely swept away. Catherine was radiant. The public fell for her completely. And almost immediately, something shifted inside those palace walls. People close to Camilla say the mood changed the moment that wedding was over. Camilla made it known through the right channels that as the wife of the future king, she believed she deserved first access to the vault over Catherine when it came to major state occasions. She wanted the queen to confirm her seniority through the jewels. The queen said absolutely nothing back. Total silence. But something was moving quietly in the background that Camilla had no idea about. After Diana died in 1997, the pearl choker had been locked away. The queen understood those pearls were too raw, too completely fused with Diana's memory to place around just anyone's neck. Putting them on the wrong woman would have torn the world apart. So she kept that box sealed, and she watched. She kept watching, until she found someone she believed could carry the full weight of what those pearls meant without being destroyed by it. That moment happened during Prince Philip's burial. That was exactly the pearl Camilla wanted, and the queen made sure it went straight to Catherine's neck. But this was only the start, because the queen was not simply keeping one piece from Camilla. She was keeping the entire future of the monarchy out of her reach, and she had already been placing it, stone by stone, into Catherine's hands. So did Camilla fight back. And what happened when she did? The Vault War. The queen never looked Camilla straight in the face and explained herself. She communicated through diamonds, and every time that vault swung open for Catherine and clicked shut for Camilla, the message grew louder and harder. To feel the full weight of what was unfolding inside that vault, you need one thing understood first. The royal jewelry collection is not just a room full of expensive accessories. Every piece inside it holds history and sacred stories reaching back hundreds of years. Some significant pieces carry the living face of the monarchy itself. So when the queen chose who wore what, she was deciding who the future of this family belonged to. And she had already made that decision. The single most valuable piece in the entire royal vault is the Nizam of Hyderabad necklace, a Cartier creation. Diamonds cut with such precision, the whole thing looks less like something worn around a neck and more like something built by an architect. It was presented to the queen as a wedding gift in 1947 by the ruler of Hyderabad. She wore it in the early landmark portraits of her reign, portraits that ended up on currency, in history books all over the world. That necklace was the visual heartbeat of the Elizabethan era itself, the image that lived in people's minds when they pictured a young queen at the height of her power. Camilla never came close to it. Elizabeth made sure she would never ever wear it. The queen never explained her thinking to a single person. The people who watched her closely read every move. Camilla was never going to sit on that throne for long. She was older. She had come into this family late. Her time as queen consort would be relatively brief before the crown moved on to William and Catherine. And you do not hand the most historically loaded piece in the kingdom to a woman who is simply passing through. You hand it to the woman who will still be carrying this family's weight in 20 years, in 30 years, in 50 years, long after the rest of them are gone. That woman is Catherine. It had always been Catherine. So, in 2014, the Queen authorized the Nizam of Hyderabad necklace to be loaned to Catherine for an official gala. Catherine wore it. The world saw it. And in one single evening, the Queen transferred decades of prestige and visual power directly onto Catherine's shoulders and completely off Camilla's. The most valuable piece in the vault, the one that shaped the Queen's own public image and anchored her entire era, now belonged to Catherine's story, not Camilla's. Camilla knew exactly what the queen had done, and she got furious. Around this same time, people inside the palace say she became sharper and more deliberate. She began naming specific pieces she wanted out loud, in front of staff, directly in front of the queen. And then came the moment that shows you exactly how far she was willing to reach. At a private family gathering, Camilla saw the Cambridge pearl brooch and made no effort to hide how much she wanted it. She said so directly, right there in the room. One person who was present said the room went uncomfortable immediately. The audacity of it. That brooch had lived on the queen's chest for 7 decades. It was practically part of her body. Shortly after, she threw all caution away and asked the queen if she might wear it to an upcoming engagement. The queen smiled and said absolutely nothing. She ignored Herm. The following year, the unthinkable happened. That brooch went to Catherine. The queen gave her to wear it for a portrait. Catherine and William's first official joint portrait, unveiled in 2022. The most widely seen, most reproduced image of the next generation of this family. And the Cambridge pearl brooch sat right there at the center of Catherine's chest, in full view of the entire world. Camilla's request was never addressed. The answer came in a photograph that will still be hanging on walls a century from now. Then there is Queen Alexandra's wedding necklace, and this one carries a very specific kind of venom for Camilla. To feel why, you need to know what this piece actually stands for. It was a wedding gift to Queen Alexandra in 1863. That necklace was placed around her neck as a young bride stepping into that exact role. And from that day forward, it became permanently tied the Princess of Wales title, the exact title Camilla had been told she would never hold. When the Queen Mother died in 2002, this necklace passed to Queen Elizabeth. And Queen Elizabeth did something very deliberate with it. She placed it in the vault and walked away. It disappeared completely while Camilla attended state banquet after state banquet. That necklace never once came out for her, until 2018, when Catherine wore it to the state banquet at Buckingham Palace. In the same room as Camilla, the Queen did not need to say a single word that night. The necklace screamed everything she had chosen to never say out loud. By this point, Camilla understood that someone definitely didn't want her anywhere near these jewels. So, she did what anyone in her position would do. She went to Charles. Whether she pushed him, or whether he saw it and stepped in himself, Charles began quietly making the case for Camilla to receive more public recognition through the jewels. He brought it to the Queen directly, and every single time he did, the Queen reached into that vault and gave Catherine something bigger, something heavier with history. Camilla gained nothing. Catherine gained everything. And Charles came to understand very quickly and very painfully that this was a fight he was not going to win against his own mother. Now, the story is about to take a darker turn. Because all these jewels we have talked about so far aren't even the ones the late Queen held dear. These next ones are greatly dear to her. And she did everything she could so Camilla wouldn't come near them. The personal blow. The Cambridge pearl brooch already tells part of this story. 7 decades on the Queen's chest. When Camilla asked for it, the Queen silent and then placed it on Catherine's chest. That was the Queen looking at both women and making a choice about who she actually trusted, who she actually wanted holding her identity when she was no longer alive to hold it herself. Camilla was not that woman. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, goes as deep as the Edinburgh wedding bracelet. By royal standards, this bracelet is modest, but the story living inside those diamonds will completely hollow you out if you let yourself sit with it honestly. Let's start here. Prince Philip's mother was Princess Alice, and her story is one of the most quietly devastating in the entire history of this family. Doctors who did not understand her declared her mentally ill. She was forcibly taken from her children and locked away against her will. She lost almost everything she had. In the end, she surrendered every possession she owned and spent her final years inside Buckingham Palace, dressed in a nun's habit, because she had decided that nothing in the material world had anything left worth holding. Philip grew up carrying the knowledge of what had been done to his mother, what she had lost, what had been taken from her. And when he was preparing to marry the young woman who would become Queen Elizabeth II, he took his mother's tiara apart with his own hands, dismantled it completely, and had every diamond reset into a bracelet, a wedding gift for his bride. He was giving her the most precious thing he had, a fragment of his broken, deeply loved, complicated mother, a piece of his own grief shaped into something she could press against her skin and carry with her every single day. The Queen wore that bracelet for 73 years, and when the time came to pass it on, she gave it to Catherine, not Camilla. This was the most intimate object the Queen possessed, the physical soul of her marriage. Born from a mother's suffering and a young man's love, the Queen looked at every woman in that family and decided that the only person fit to hold that story, to wear that love against her wrist, was Catherine. Camilla had been beside Charles for decades. She held the same senior royal rank as everyone else in that family, and the Queen looked at every bit of that and still said no. That was the last gift she gave to Catherine before she died. On September 8th, 2022, Queen Elizabeth II took her final breath at Balmoral Castle, and every lock in that vault changed hands overnight. Camilla, who had been denied for 17 straight years, suddenly had access to everything. So what did she do with it? She burned it all down. The aftermath. The Queen was barely in the ground when Camilla made her move. Her first major move was the Greville Emerald Kokoshnik tiara. This tiara is staggering. A single central emerald weighing 93.7 carats, surrounded by a platinum framework of diamonds that holds it like a throne built for that stone alone. Made in 1919. It entered the royal collection in 1942, when a society hostess named Dame Margaret Greville left her entire jewelry collection to the Queen Mother. The tiara came with it, and then it essentially disappeared. For 70 years, Queen Elizabeth kept it locked away because it was dangerous. The tiara had been acquired during the violent, chaotic collapse of the Russian Revolution, and its origins were murky. The Queen knew that a reigning monarch putting that tiara on her head would drag up deeply uncomfortable questions about how certain aristocratic treasures passed hands during that brutal period. Questions the monarchy could not afford to face in public, so she locked it away and left it there. And here is what Camilla did. She took it, wore it to a major diplomatic reception at Windsor Castle in late 2025. She was sending a message with every diamond on that tiara. The rules are finished. I am the one in charge now. I have everything they kept from me. Watch me take it all back. The world watched, just not the way she wanted. Within hours, royal commentators and diplomatic experts began raising the exact questions the Queen had spent 70 years keeping buried. The tiara's murky origins, the Revolutionary-era history, the deeply uncomfortable questions about aristocratic wealth, and exactly where it came from. Camilla had knocked down the wall the Queen built around it and let every ugly question come flooding straight in, but she was not done. In March 2026, the Nigerian president visited Britain for a formal state banquet. Camilla walked in wearing the late Queen's personal Cartier bracelets stacked up both wrists, pieces Elizabeth had worn quietly for years, not for show, not for cameras. And Camilla did exactly the opposite. And sitting above all of it was a sapphire tiara so large it walked into the room before she did. That was exactly what she wanted. Then Catherine walked in. She had just one tiara. The Lover's Knot. The Lover's Knot was commissioned by Queen Mary in 1913. It was built from brilliant cut diamonds and 19 hanging pearls set in silver and gold. Notoriously, almost punishingly heavy. Princess Diana wore it and said the weight gave her headaches so severe she could barely last a full evening. But she kept wearing it because it became her crown, the thing that made her look exactly like the woman she was. The Queen had made absolutely certain this tiara went to Catherine. By doing so, the Queen let that tiara breathe again, let it carry Diana's memory forward without it being swallowed by the pain of the 1990s. So when Catherine walked into that banquet wearing it, it was as if Diana herself had reached forward and placed it there. Every camera in that room turned away from Camilla. Camilla had more jewels on her body than Catherine, and she still lost the room, because everyone knew who the beloved late Queen had chosen, and it wasn't her. And now here is the darkest part of the whole story. As Queen Consort, Camilla has the legal authority to request the pieces Catherine currently holds. which means right now, today, and there is nothing on paper anywhere to stop her. But she will not. And somewhere deep inside herself, she knows exactly why she will not. Because pulling those pieces off Catherine's body would not hand Camilla the Queen's legacy. It would not give her the trust or the grace those jewels now carry inside them. It would simply show the entire world that she is exactly the kind of woman who reaches for things that were never meant for her. She already learned that lesson. She learned it slowly and painfully and completely in public over 17 years.